My name is Najib Kalaos. Taking into account the etymological meaning of engineer, all my life I've been engineer, not scientist. I love to be scientist, but I love more to be engineer. In the etymological sense of engineering, of designing, implementing, and makes things useful. Because our country, Venezuela, needed these kind of people more than, in my opinion, more than the disciplinary scientists. Maybe the developed countries needs as much of their disciplinary scientists as of their non-disciplinary engineers that are used to mix up, several disciplines in order to get something done. So I insist on the etymological meaning of engineer because I learned that it's the same etymological meaning, the meaning of the genius of the land. The genius of the land is the same etymological meaning as engineer. So the genius can do more than his owner, but he has to do always what he's ordered to do. So that's the way I see engineers. They can do what the user cannot do, but they have to fulfill the requirement of the users, of the owner of the land. So that's metaphor oriented my life as academic in engineering and as consultant and as engineer and etc. etc. And I've been for about 50 years in the academic activity, teaching, making action research mostly, because engineer, I have to do action research. And for a long time, mistakenly or not, I was and I am convinced that we are not providing our students education. We are providing them instruction. I thought that was happening in my country because we were a developing country. But since I started organizing the conferences, I found out that this kind of situation is probably going everywhere. That there is a huge confusion, in my opinion, I'm just giving an opinion here, between education and instruction. We are not sure if we really are providing higher education. Sometimes we are providing higher instruction, but we call it higher education. Because I cannot understand how we can educate people without ethics. We can instruct them without ethics. But how we can educate people without the respective ethics, the respective capability of transferring emotions, which is the pathos in Greek, and the logos. I mean, what we teach is the technical logos. But how about English? Are we teaching English? Are we teaching Spanish in my country? So the computer engineer, which were my students for about 3 years, all of them, they were very good at Java, and C, COBOL, Fortran, in the old ages. But few of them knew how to speak in Spanish. And the user of the systems, they do not speak Java, they speak in Spanish. So this is something, it's like 2 + 2 = 4. Why I'm saying that? Well, my problem is that it's so evident that for some reason few people are saying that. Is there a pragmatic problem, or there is also an ethical problem there? I'm sure, I'm going to try to show that there is an ethical problem also there. And not just make the ethical problem. there is a meta-ethical point. Most of the time that my mistakes were more in the meta-ethical dimension than in the ethical one, and we're going to show that right away quickly. This is a definition applied to these things. It's not the general definition about ethos, okay? It's just the consequence, which is credibility of the teacher, the credibility of the researcher, the credibility of the reviewer, the credibility of the editor-in-chief. So if there is no credibility, there is no research communication. Emotion. I cannot imagine a good educator. I'm not talking about instructor, okay? I'm talking about educator. There is no way I can imagine a good educator that he doesn't have the emotion of educating and he cannot transmit the education of educating. There is no way I can imagine it. And the logos, what we just said, that it's not just the technical logos, the math, the Java, the C, but also the Spanish, the English, the Polish, the German, because an engineer has to be talking with users who has requirements. So that's a huge difference between engineering and pure science. Pure scientists can talk to each other in their language and in their discipline. But how an engineer can talk to anyone in technical terms, to talk in natural language, and make the translation, adequate translation, correct translation between the natural language and the technical one. As you can see here, we can see that there is at least 9 areas of academic, ethos, pathos, and laws. At least 9 because it's 3 by 3. The other 3 are research, education, and consulting or real-life problem solving. These are the 3 academic activities, basically. So if we have 3 and 3, the first 3 apply to each one of the other 3. So we have at least 10 domains, 9 domains that we have to be working on if we are going to be analytical on the subject. Plus 36 potential relationships among them, because they are related. And many times they are cybernetically related. Consequently then, practice-based reflection, and this is with you. Practice-based reflection, position paper, action research, and action learning projects might be in the context of any of these areas, and you can write a paper, any kind of paper in these areas, which will have just editorial review because it will be invited paper. It could be position paper. What I'm doing now here is a position. So I'm insisting that this is an opinion based on 45 years of academic experience, but it's still an opinion. Or what some authors call practice-based reflection or practice-based research. I prefer to call it an opinion. In this conversational session, we will input seemingly simple, isolated questions. We're not going to go through that. I'm going to leave that to the epistemic part of the conversation, which will be in the hand of the journal. So I'm using his word. He will be doing the epistemic part, and I know that he will do it. In my case, I'm going to try to do it in the technique, episteme and technique. So that's what we are supposed to be relating to each other in that way. Quickly. Let's start with the last problem that everyone would say, there is an ethical problem here, at least one. I learned that yesterday we got another thing that was in the Wall Street Journal. I learned that, so I don't have the example here. But the last thing that I heard about is about this paper, gibberish, published by Elsevier and by IEEE. At least 120. This is what the French researcher found out up to the present. And he was so kind of mean, he said, so it's not my word, that he told them, I'm not going to tell you which papers are. I know. That you have at least 120 papers produced by gibberish computer. I mean, it's at random, a computer working at random. So how many, just with that question, how many questions can we have here that we're not going to answer it here? That's questions that you can answer in a position paper in the next 20 minutes. In a position paper, reflection paper, whatever. It's going to be invited. Okay? Did the publisher have scientific misconduct or unethical behavior? I cannot prove it's not, but I am convinced it's not. Because I cannot imagine people like IEEE and Elsevier accepting that for money just because this would mean not 1%, but 0.110000001% of their revenue. So they're not going to risk their prestige and their ethic just because of 120 papers. But it happened. Did the editor-in-chief have scientific misconduct or unethical behavior here? I'm focusing now on research and research communication. But any reviewer or any author that is not ethical in that, we cannot expect him to be ethical in education. Okay, because here there is a reviewer, and despite of the reviewer, he's not being ethical. In education, no one is reviewing him. So if he's unethical here, there is more reason to believe that in education he or she also unethical. You see, so this is why I've chosen the research part of the ethics. Editor-in-chief, I don't think so. I have no proof, but I really would not think so that an editor-in-chief would risk his image because of these things. Actually, in the next thing, we're going to see that an editor-in-chief just, how you say, renounced. How you say renunciar in English? He renounced, he resigned because what happened? Conference organizers could be doing that. The authors. If the authors are doing that, poor students of these authors. Poor students. The reviewers of these papers. A combination of the authors and the reviewers. Anyone else? Yes, there could be here a lot of different answers, all of them valid. So we invite you to write it. We are not sure what we are saying, okay? But we think that the problem is in peer reviewing, but not just an ethical one, but a meta-ethical one. And that was our mistake in the 2005. Because if you are not just ethical, but meta-ethical, you have to have the ethics to make the others ethical. So I knew that, and this is the other paper that I gave you, the large one. I knew that from an experience and consulting in information system for 30 years. I knew that. So I don't know why I didn't apply it to the conference. My advisor, PhD advisor, told me, hey, you forgot that scientists are human beings also like politicians. That's it. You forgot that. They are human beings. This is the second example. This is in the 12. That one was in the 14. This is in the 12. In this case, that was in the New York Times that I learned about thanks to Jeremy.
Audrey, can I ask one else? I think you're looking at the answer right in the face when you've been doing it for 30 years. Let me propose Norton antivirus's model. Vulnerability, exploit, and payload. And if you take a look at
we can add that to a paper that we can write on that.
I'll do that.
We can do that, and we can add that in it.
That's what you're looking at.
Thank you.
Your vulnerability, exploit, and payload.
212. Look at that. Look at that. The papers that have the redaction of the paper on the best journals, the most reputable journals. So it's something, he's not just a human being, because human being would not change that much in 5 years. There is something more. It's technology that is allowing us to be unethical. This is the same thing we saw, but by journal. And here we're talking about medical journals, where we are supposed to have the best reviewing. Because it's the health, if it's your health, my health, and your health. We are supposed to have the best reviewing. In the 2009, we got another example that could have some more precise question and answers. Here, the editor of the journal resigned because he said that what they published, he didn't see it completely with the review. So it's a kind of argument that I couldn't understand, but let's say that he's right, and he resigned. Would that solve the problem of the journal? He says, would that solve the problem? So, the director of publication, I mean the manager, not the chief officer, I mean not the editor-in-chief, his argument was that, and we are talking about bedtime science here, everyone knows bedtime science and how reputable they are. He said, he told Nature that the submission of fake manuscript is totally unethical. Yes, but this is not the answer. This is like saying 2 plus 2 is 4. Yes, this is a truth, 2 plus 2 is 4, but this has to do nothing with the problem. It's a truth, but it's not the problem. Got to do nothing with the problem. doesn't have to do nothing with the problem. And that's what I did. Okay. Another example here. We are talking about Science Direct. We are talking about, one of the most prestigious journals in Elsevier. It's not anymore conferences. It's a journal that has all the time to make the review. It's not like conferences that we cannot make more and more and more review because I cannot tell you, hey, I'm still doing the review, don't come. It's a journal, a prestigious journal. And they published a random paper. The highest reputable journal in computing and mathematics. Okay. That's what's happened to us. We accepted a paper with no review to be presented at the conference, with no publication, and all hell broke loose. That was in the 205. Everything was set up front that we were accepting 15% of paper based on the CV of the person, not on the paper. And we are applying that to those cases when we have not reviewed. So I felt, wrongly felt, okay, that it was not ethical to tell you your paper is refused if no one is refusing your paper. For me, it was an ethical problem. I cannot tell you that it's accepted because it's not accepted. But how can I tell you that it's refused? So I prefer other unethical problem because I am now in an unethical problem that I don't know how to solve it. But with less degree, if I don't have review of your paper, I would say nothing. Not accepted, not refused, nothing. Then you start asking me, what's going on? What I say is the truth. We have no review of your paper yet. You can remove it or you can wait. Things are sometimes learned the hard way. So when I found out in the 205 that we didn't have an ethical problem, that my personal mistake, that was mine, no one else's, was a meta-ethical problem.
Yeah, but you stuck around. You didn't just resign and walk away. That didn't fix the problem.
That didn't fix the problem, of course.
You figured out a process of
I was planning to do just 2 conferences more and that's it. I said, from now on, until I die, I'm going to make conferences. It's a meta-ethical problem that I faced it when I faced it when I was in the consulting business. And in the large paper that you got, I am explaining all these things. So why I didn't apply it to conference organization, I don't know. But it's a meta-ethical problem. We need a methodology, not just an ethical one, but to have the ethics of making people have ethical behavior. So it's different things. It's something to be ethical and something to be sure that you are ethical. So it's a meta-ethical problem. And I'm sure that most of the problem is at the meta-ethical level, not at the ethical level. Because at the ethical level, you will never solve the problem. Because you will always have people trying to make unethical things. Always. Especially with the promotional structure that we got in academy, that the only way to get up, is to publish paper. So we were promoting the unethical problem in the professors. So there will be always ethical people with non-ethical behavior. So the problem is not ethical one, but meta-ethical one. How you catch the unethical people on time. Especially when there is a combination of unethical behavior with the author and the reviewer. I mean, a reviewer that would accept the paper without reading it, what kind of education is he giving to his or her students? And this is what we are finding out more and more. So you have to have meta-reviewing. How much is going to cost meta-reviewing? Reviewers reviewing the reviewing. That will lower the probability, but will not go to zero. One guy, I didn't know about that. He was told of him that neither Nobel nor Turing achieved such a prize eponymous recognition as this guy. And you know what he said when he examined the paper we accepted in the 205? Look at what he said. The conclusion, he said, it says, I suppose conclusion is that a reliable gibberish filter requires a careful holistic review by several peer domain experts. Although nonsense in toto. Okay, it says that it made sense, each phrase made sense, that the paper as a whole didn't make sense. So now it comes to my mind the famous PhD thesis in France, done by two Russians, who they will discover that it was just a prank. What's happened there? Every one of the five judges, I don't know how to call it, of the committee, the reason he gave or she gave is, I was okay with the part that I understand. With what I didn't understand, I suppose that someone else was understanding. And we are talking about the PhD thesis in France. And the guy who did that now is doing millions in TV because they got the name. We resumed all that in 4 or 5 pages that we presented in a workshop. Professor Brandon made, sponsored by the National Science Foundation. You know my problem with him? He's Grandon, and they used to tell him Gordon. So he knows that already, and every time when he comes here, Grandon, no, there is no Grandon. Look for Gordon, please. So you notice that I stopped to see what I was going to say. So we presented that in that National Science Foundation workshop, organized by him and sponsored by the National Science Foundation, in short 3-4 pages. But these 3-4 pages are pointing to about 200 of pages, which were the result of this action research of what happened to us in the 205. And now, my question is, shouldn't anyone that is in his problem shouldn't be doing actual research on this problem? Who is doing that? We've been doing that for 9 years. We proved a lot of methodologies, and now we have a methodology that seems to be working. Because it's taking into account the meta-ethical dimension. Not just the ethical one, but the meta-ethical one. Who else is working with that? I would love to know at least someone, some project, somewhere in the world, someone working on this kind of problem that is plaguing all the academy. And if we cannot do it in research, do you think that we can identify it and do something in education? If we cannot do it in education, is that higher education or higher instruction? What we are doing? Are we really academics? Or we are fooling ourselves saying that we are tenured professors, are fooling ourselves. So that's the point, is getting in as a monk.
Well, look the part, I must play the part. Nobody will be burned at the stake that I know of. They have bound by technology. Pull this thing out now, good, John, I can't see the thing. This is gonna have to come out. Is that gonna blow anything up? Bombs or anything?
What do you want? Nothing good. Oh, you got another one.
No.
You told me that you're not going to bring anything.
Huh? You told them you weren't gonna bring anything.
No, I told them I bring something.
There, I gotta get this thing. Whoa. See, even the medieval theory would be caught up to date. Wow. And I drive a car though. I gotta open, whoops. I don't wanna. Oh, you gotta go back. Here we go. Open the folder, there we go.
Yeah.
Good idea.
And
Then, academic ethos and people.
Ethos.
Now, you take that, put that on the desktop. I don't know if that's the desktop, okay, I don't know what is that?
But you don't open that right away.
No, I'm gonna do this right here. I'm gonna do it, I'll open up to the desktop, with Microsoft, and you know how that goes. Here we go.
It's evident that he doesn't like Microsoft. It's evident.
Perhaps we'll have no problem with your Windows system.
What more papers? Can't see it.
How do you call them?
It is the, let's see, we're the PowerPoint file. God, it was all this crap.
You're not going to find it if you don't tell how you call it.
It is, it's something order, what is the title of the proposed book? It was, look at this thing in a view that I can understand. This. Now. There we go. That's no, it's where's the type thing? God, I can just like details in the latest one. Sorry, folks. There we go. Now, I want the latest one. It's not the academic, it's a PowerPoint. There, date modified. Yeah, there it is. The order of things. That's it. Now, I don't know if this is going to be. I'll just bring it up the PDF. You want to push it on the PowerPoint. That should come up. There we go.
Yeah, that's it. But we got some relaxation time. I was stressed, but not you.
Put a hood on that. If I got it back. Those are two movies. Anyway, method. This is methodology 101. I did like that paper. Methodology is the study of method. That's methodology in the study of stuff like that. That's who I am, boy, communicate with me about that. Quibble, fine. Whoops, that's not what I want. From episteme to techniques. Now explain this little diagram.
I told him, let's go for technical
Right.
employment
Right.
instead from technical episteme. He preferred top down, everything top down. I prefer it bottom
Now,
up.
there's a reason why everything is blue. I'll get through that. We have a certain order of things, kind of like Foucault's the archaeology of knowledge and stuff like that. We have Govinda, the pure thought. I'd like to get to the guy at the bottom, the gal at the bottom. And then we go from there to the way of actualizing it. The horse, I get on it, actually do something and go away with it. Then I get here on the airplane. That's what it's supposed to come out. I'll get to the alligator in a second. And I'll tell you why they're all blue. Episteme. Now what is episteme? It's basically, essentially the thought, the kind of the theory. And it basically means the origin of knowledge. How do we know something? Now this gets very tricky. We have the various epistemologies, we have the standard ones, we have the logic, we have the history, tradition, scientific methods, stuff like that. It gets kind of, I think ultimately we get into kind of a bootstrap thing. How really do you know? And you start going over and over and over and over in circles. But we'll just say episteme now is just pure thinking, pure thought, stuff like that. And I kind of think that might be a bogus term. On the other hand, technique. I find myself kind of in a peculiar situation being head of this Inventor's Assistance League. It's all about technique. And I seem to have gotten stuck in technique all my life. I abominate these things, I abominate all kinds of things like that. And I'll get to that toward the end of this. I'm kind of leading up to something because I want to involve everybody in the discussion here. Because we have that traditional thing of the episteme and the technique in between. I think there's something missing. I'll get to that. We are missing something. There is the algorithm. What are we missing? The why. And this is where it comes in. Now, I had this long discussion with a good friend of mine, Ariane Bonson Palmer. This was years ago. It's always kind of down on the religions. Koran capitals, the Bible pumpers, and all this other stuff. He said, I'm not religious. Oh, she looked at me and said, oh, yes, you are. I said, well, what's that? And she said, basically, look at the word, you criticize me. I like etymology. It means to cohere or bind. That's what I'm going to be coming back to you folks about. When somebody takes a paper and starts meditating upon the atoms inside this thing and starts assembling and they really get into it for 30, 40 years in their life, okay, that's fine, whatever turns you on, but why are you doing it? And I asked that question a while ago. Why the hell are you doing that? It gets into what are you trying to find out that coheres or binds? You think about why do you go to school, why do you go, especially in philosophy, like I did. I want to know, I'm on this boat, and I want to know who the hell the captain is, and I want to know where it's going. I don't think that's a bad question. It's like Clifford's ethics of belief. And you don't believe something, you have a justified belief. And Clifford said basically, if I'm the captain of the boat, I have that responsibility of making sure that boat is in good order. And I want to believe that it's in good order. I have always had these conversations with people, and I ask, where are the donuts in the grocery store? Well, I believe they're on aisle 32. I said, well, I believe they're Martians hiding in the damn cooler. I don't give a damn what you believe, and I have conversations like this. Now, I make sure everybody around me sees that. I don't care what you believe. I want to know where the hell those things are. You kind of like, ooh. Yeah, where? How do you know that the donuts are in where they're supposed to be? That's what I want to know. See? So it's not belief. It's justified belief. But what it is, it goes beyond that. Why are you doing all this stuff? Because I have within me the desire to know where this boat is going, who the captain is, and all those buggy little questions like why. I want to know what it's all about. Admittedly, I will have had the first confession. I'll get to that in a second. This is my confession. It does come out of Martin Luther. It comes out of Martin Luther and saying, you know, I don't want to, you get in this real uncertainty, this alienation that, gee, you're not going to be, you don't go to the church anymore and pay your whatever it is to absolve yourself of your sins. You are really going to be faced with what happens after you die. And that's really what it's all about, folks. It is honest. I don't give a damn which way you phrase it. Now, this is why I had that conversation with you folks this morning, this earlier, is the idea of the Mayan illusion and the Buddhist view. It's all Mayan illusion. What happens, there is this universal consciousness that gets through a whole bunch of issues. So the Western view and the Eastern view are entirely different in a sense. That we particularize it. The Western view is technical. That's the honest to God technical. Because they really particularize it. But what happens, the holistic view is the South Asian view. Correct me if I'm wrong. And so you have that interplay. There's a dialectic that goes on back and forth between these two. So the monk basically is kind of the person who really wants to know what it's all about. And they devote everything. All their life is all caught up in their religion. They have a different form. But the academic is a religionist. That's what it's all about. You're the religionist. And I told my students, I said, you know, I think I really consider myself one of the most religious people here. Certainly more than the Bible thumpers. Because they're ideologues. That's all they are. The Koran thumpers, whatever you want to thump. So what is the religionist? Academic is the religionist. And I don't mean the IST, the ideological. One who's really is at one with knowing. So all these things with the plagiarism, stuff like that, wouldn't be an issue if the person was religious.
That's right.
Ethos. That's what it gets to, the ethos. What is your ethos? And that's what that alligator is all about. The ethos. You can't have ethics without ethos. A lot of philosophers don't see this. You have the ethos, what you are about, what your core is. Then you have the ethics that follow after that. And then you have the moral code, in particular, how you carry it out. The ethics basically is kind of the rules. It's sort of like the shouldas and the oughtas. Why should you do that? Why not go out and murder people and stuff like that? Because I have an ethos. Why don't I play the game? Why don't I have that idea that, gee, I'm just going to get ahead? Because I have an ethos that I want to know. I want to know who the captain of the ship is. Why I'm here, all this other good stuff. Then you might become at one with the consciousness of the universe and stuff like this. I think they believe something like that. So basically what we have the two, we had the opposing views. I like Najib's, opposing contradictory, but they are dialectically related. You have to have the Cartesianism, the extreme reductionism. Then you have the holism. One exists because of the other. They're kind of opposed to each other, but they're basically two sides of the same coin, as it were. But they're dialectically related. One, this is very critical wording. One exists because of the other. Cannot be this or that. There's some quote coming from medieval, wherever it is. I'm a monk, I should know, but I don't. But it has to do with neither this nor that. But that in terms of the other. So the Cartesianism, if we stick with the Cartesianism, we will ultimately cut the whole universe up into nanoparticles and even down to Planck scale and below that. And that's why I made my comment earlier about the entropy. Because you allow the Cartesianism, the only way that we can save ourselves is to have that dialectic. To not only have the dialectic, but be the dialectic. Not look at it and stuff like that. You have to be the dialectic. That's what it's about. Give an example of the dialectic. Don't you see that little square in there? There's a little square in there, a rectangle. There is one in there. Now you can see it. Something in terms of what it isn't. The inner one exists because of the one that surrounds it. And the one that surrounds it exists because of the one that it contains. That's critical. It is. You be the dialectic. That's what education, that's the ethos. Something exists because it gets back into this. It's not simply the South Asian view. It's not simply the Cartesian view. One in terms of the other. Now, getting back to the thing that I got out of order. I think we ought to have confessions from the academics. I'm going to shed this earthly garb, because it's hotter than hell on this thing. I think I've made the point. No, I'm not going to undress. I'm going to get rid of the damn thing anyway. So I think we ought to look at ourselves. Why are we in academics? It's not simply because you're simply interested in the book. But I think it's because of who you are. And when you simply go to the schools, not because I'm interested in a puzzle and figuring something out. If you're really the academic, not the technician, you have to have the technician. You have to have the particular, again, the particular exists because of the whole. The theory exists because of the practice. The deduction exists because of the induction. And I think, and I had said this before in other conferences, that there is a fundamental reason for this, for the dialectic. It is a binary universe in which we're living, the one in terms of the other. I'd like to know, why are you in academia? Let's go around and find out why you're in academia. Well, why did you go and get your PhD and do a whole lot of this stuff and do all the things you really wanted to do anyway, but you did, and you're not into the research and stuff like that. It sure as hell not because of the money. What is your ethos? What is your core? That's what I want to know when people do stuff. I want to, with all that stuff to happen, what is your core? If you can't look in that mirror, there's a little exercise you folks might want to do. And I have my students do it. It's kind of like an exercise I think I've seen out there. You go to a mirror, and you look at the mirror, and you look at the mirror. You don't simply look at the mirror. You get into that mirror. And yet after a while, a very curious thing seems to happen. As you kind of get outside yourself, your consciousness, whatever the hell that is, you kind of get outside yourself. You can do this with a tape recorder. That's why people don't like to listen to their own voices in the tape recorder. Because what happens is that you're actually getting outside yourself. It's almost like a out of the body experience. And when you look at that mirror, after a while you keep doing that and doing it. It's like a meditative thing. I can do it without the mirror. I can do it right now. I can turn it on and off right now. But that's an exercise. You look at that and you get outside yourself. That's weird. And you kind of get outside yourself. And you look inside yourself. There is your perspective. What is your core? And I could right now, I'm kind of getting outside myself, and what is my core? And I can sit down on myself and say, core, and there I am. I do a meta talking. I talk is the object language. I'm talking right now, and I can actually do this. I can get out, do my meta talking. There's core, you just did the talking. And you look at that mirror. I invite everybody to do that mirror. It will work in most cases.
I'm reminded of, I had a conversation like this with my mother once, and she told me about students who applied to medical school, and all the other students said, I want to go to medical school because I want to help people, I want to cure people, and this person said, I want to go there because the salaries are nice, and he didn't get in. And my mother's point was, probably a lot of the other people who were giving very idealistic courses have the same aspiration to make a lot of money. And it's just a paradox.
That's pure technique. That's Cartesian. You see, that's what's killing me. Tech. You get all these gewgaws and stuff, and Microsoft, all this. I worked at Microsoft. They were so cute kids and clever. I'm clever, look, Mommy, look at how I create. It doesn't work. I don't give a damn. It's cute. I love it. It's a gewgaw. It's crap.
I would say, in my terms, what he's asking is not at least fool the rest of the people, but let us not to fool ourselves. What we are. Are we academic or what?
You're a technician? That dude's a
At least
technician.
not to fool ourselves. That's what he's trying to say.
What are you in academia for? Why are you in academia? You got a PhD. What'd you do it all for? You went out there and kissed the chair's ass and did everything you wanted? Why did you do it? Why? I told him to go straight to hell. They booted me out of one university. Then I went to Cuba with some student loan money, didn't like that too well, because I want to know the world. I don't give a damn what the State Department says. I finally got the UF. They kicked me out because they said, finally, get this guy this degree, get the hell out of here. Why did you go? And especially philosophy. Gee, what? What did you do with it? What could you do with philosophy? Do stuff like this. Philosophy. Jesus Christ. Anybody in here take philosophy? Anybody in here a philosophy major? Bullshit. Why did you go? This is random. Why'd you go to university? Why'd you go to, when you were out there, you had the idea and you wanted to look at the books, blah, blah, blah. Why did you really go? What was your core that said, why? Huh? But I'll do that. I'll do that anyway. I don't need to go to university for that. Why? So if you really had the core, you wouldn't be, I don't know what you do, but if anybody had the core, they wouldn't be doing stuff like that. I have a theory about that. I let the cat out of the bag a little while. I think it's a virus. I think it's an intellectual virus that's infecting us. Because these phony papers and crap like that, that's what's happening.
James, you would like to say something?
Yeah, of course. I've been shut my mouth for a while.
I went to school because I wanted my heart to stop crying, and because I was hungry and bored. I was hungry to know, and I was bored with the answers I was getting.
This planet sucks, doesn't it? You really want to know why? That's why space is a vacuum. Why are you here? Who's running this freaking vote? I want to know.
I can give you an answer,
Huh?
but I'd like it.
Yeah.
This
Speak out.
question-
I'm the professor.
Anyone can answer this question, do it in a position paper.
I'm the professor. You come, hell, I'll set up
Why?
a booth out there and collect some money while I'm at it. And just the damn church did. Go for it. Go for it. I want to know why. I really like to know why. Okay, confess.
Why is to have freedom? You don't have the freedom if you go in a normal job. You have to do everything every day the same way.
Yeah.
My brother is a dentist.
It's called
so
more
he has
close to
money,
hell.
he has the money, and he has the freedom here. But why the people are here, are sitting, or why they have a job in the academic field, I think this is a more interesting question than your question about ethos and so on. Because in the academics, only of all who will desire a job and will desire a career as a researcher, it is up to 2 to 3% of the people really get tenure. So this is the biggest problem, and this is the problem for your ethos, because you have to sometimes fool the system, you have to sometimes fake the system, you have to put corporations, coalitions to be able to reach a job. And this is a problem. It is very luxury if you sit here and say, oh, let's think about the problem, think about the Greeks, think about that one. Here we are talking about surviving, we are talking about resources, we are talking about jobs which are not available.
So the whole system have an ethical basis.
It is
The
so.
whole
It is so.
academic system.
It is, but not only the academic system. Our systems are mostly not very honest. And if the Americans or the Europeans talking about democracy, we almost think this democracy is a good system. No, democracy does only work because it is very despotic.
Well, what we're saying then basically that people want to become intellectual whores and not get into much business. And that's what kind of ethos drives that? And people better look at that.
So let me change the question. What's the difference between us as academicians and politicians?
They're academic whores.
If you're a full professor, no difference. You're losing that.
You see,
I thought I knew it
Academic freedom is real.
until I found out what's
It
going
is
on.
better. It is better than the other jobs. This is my experience.
I ended up
You can be a musician. You can be a writer. If you can do everything. But if you want to deal with creativity or something, before.
See,
So you have better freedom than you're working in the factory.
What are your,
If you
but
know
what
the
are your,
same
but what,
shit.
yeah, but we're talking, you externalize it. What are your values? I want to know what your values are.
To know something, you focused it and summarized it very well to get some answers. Whether these answers
What
are
are
right
your-
or not
what are-
right,
what are your
it
values?
doesn't depend.
What are your values?
Jeremy, please, could you ask that question to Grando?
I'll do that now. You can pay me later. Who wants another section? Yes, Brandon, I've been waiting for this all day. He's getting more money.
Ask Grando the same question.
Go for it. What? Your value, what's your core?
I became an academic because I wanted to teach. That was what I did. And that's, and that was, what drove me. That's what drove me to take a big pay cut. But my God, I'm being paid awfully well for the types of things I'm doing.
Don't tell me, but what's your core?
But my core is that I am driven to try to help people. I mean, that if I looked at the fundamental thing driving me for my job, it's helping people. And in academia, you get the opportunity to do that every day in the classroom that you don't get.
I'm going to do it for you. Well, why, this with the, you do this myself, why do you want to help people?
Because it feels good. I mean, that's easy.
You see what I'm driving at? It's getting back to the thing and getting back into that. I think Martin Luther had a point. I can get rid of this now. You transcended Martin Luther because Martin Luther kind of got into this alienation thing. And you say you basically, you can kind of, I think everybody has kind of gotten the pre-Martin Luther mode in this section here. You're going to go post-Martin Luther. How are you going to deal with the angst? This is an honest to God question people don't want to deal with. Because why we're an academic, we do all this, we've been externalizing this thing in this session. You go post 1499. Because now you're into something, because we've got alienation that will not quit this whole bloody planet. You talk about Cartesianism on steroids, you've got it. That's alienation plus. You've got to come back to the core. And it gets back to this dude over here in South Asia. You've got to get that other half. It's like this. It doesn't got the mustard.
Excuse me, did you say that there was no alienation
No,
before
no.
Martin Luther?
I'm not, the type of alienation. You had alienation, but I'm talking about something real alienation from yourself.
Oh, I think the world is in better shape now than it's ever been.
Really?
I'm not. I'm sorry.
I'm not saying I like the king. Why do you think he's a king? Because he's only not covered in shit. I don't mean that. I'm talking about a personal core alienation.
Okay, but you're
That's what-
alienated. Don't make the rest of us alienated. Some of us actually enjoy our lives.
Go back home and look in the mirror. I don't think so.
Well, I'll have to admit, if I looked in the mirror, I'd probably get pretty alienated.
Why,
Not much to look at, but
My personal opinion is an opinion. Both of them are right, even if they disagree with each other. But both of them are right.
Is that a dialect?
That's my opinion. This is why I asked him to ask Grando, because I knew of his controversy.
Well, he was going to put us
He
in
was
the cage.
going to be in his co-chair.
No. He was going to put us in the cage. We thought about that a second time. We said, I don't think we're going to do that. He's on the board of advisors in my organization.
Oh, now wait a second. I can't be volunteer for
Yeah,
everything.
I'm not to do it. You have to sit on your ass and look good.
This is academy. What's happening
Core.
here? What's happening here is academy.
We're just talking
Controversies,
about
honest controversies. That's academy, honest controversies. Not to be following standards. And if you don't follow standards, you are out of the university. This is not academy. I mean, This is exactly what they did, what they just did. This is why I think at random, because I knew what's going to happen. They were supposed to be the co-chair of this session.
You ever been to a cockfight?
So, if you got something here, it's a lot of questions with no answers. Each one of us has some answers, opinion. So, what we are for, but to try at least to answer some of these questions. So please try it, and let's see if we can have a special issue of just invited paper in which each one would say what want to say, not something that I write so he can review me. And he can review me, and then he's accepting my paper, but he's disliking my paper. You notice that? So, at least to have a special issue with people fighting with each other, but each one being honest on what he's saying. What's the problem of fighting with each other if I am honest? If you're going to be honest, in some moment you're going to fight someone. There's no way to be honest and not to fight, not to struggle. Let's remove the word fight. Struggle. You have to evolve, and you evolve through this kind of struggle. Because I am sure that these 5 minutes, he micro-evolved, and he micro-evolved. So if you can write position paper, research paper, experience-based paper, because who else has the experience but all of you? Because you are living all that. So what's the problem of experience-based reflection? Why not? The answer I got, that no one is paying for that. There is no grant for that. There is no university budget somewhere else. The cost is in us. And in the promotional system, the promotion and the structure in the university, how to promote people. And all this, most of these department chair, in my opinion, they are consciously or unconsciously, they are unethical. Because they don't know what the hell is peer. I've been 2 years as Dean of Research, trying to find what our university understands by the word peer. There is no way that they can have a consensus about the word peer. So they decided to go to the journals. So since they cannot define peer in the university, they accept the definition of peer of other people. This is escaping the problem. This is not solving the problem. So they cannot define peer in 2 years. But they accept the definition of peer or conference organizer that never thought about the problem. So they don't accept the professor as peers, but they accept the professor at your university as peer, and they know nothing about it. But they don't accept their own peer at the university. So I thought at that time, I thought that this was an effect of we are developing countries, so we trust the developing countries about their notion of peer and peer reviewing. But when I started with the conference, I found out that it's not the problem of developing country. This problem is everywhere. No one knows what peer is. How you say, I dare use the word maybe, to define peer. Try to make a paper defining peer. And I swear to God, that we will publish it even if no one agrees with that. But do it. Do it. Try to write what is peer. Okay, how the hell we are believing in peer reviewing if we don't know what peer is? So as soon as you know what peer is, try peer reviewing in order to know what peer and what peer reviewing is. And that's the half of the world. The other half is what's the methodology for peer reviewing. Now that you define peer review and peer reviewing, then now what is the methodology? I couldn't find any standard about peer review anywhere. Are we going to continue as academics fooling ourselves?
You want to think it is nice?
I can fool myself just because I need to eat and I have to feed my children. And the promotion, hey, you need to do that, because that's the only way I'm going to pay you. I understand that, because anyone that has children understand that. He's responsible with the children, not with him. Let's do it, but without fooling ourselves. Let's fool the others. Let's fool them. Let's make the research that they are asking us to do. But then, let's not fool ourselves. This is the necessary condition, not sufficient, but this is the necessary condition to be academic, not to fool ourselves. But any professor that fools himself or herself is very probable that might fool the student or not. That might fool his department chair or not, his dean or not. If he's able to fool himself or herself, so it's more easy to fool the others. So let's do what life is asking us to do, because you cannot change the promotional system in the whole world. Let's do it, but without fooling ourselves. But are we real academic people? Are we? If we are, then answer his question. What's that? What's that? What's academic mean? To teach? Yes. This is a necessary condition. It's a sufficient condition. You need to teach the truth. To teach the truth, you need to investigate the truth. You need to research for the truth. To research for the truth, you need an ethic, a logos, a pathos. You need to have emotion. You have to transmit emotion. My position with the truth is an evolutionary process. You always, when you try it, you get closer to the truth. But we will never achieve the truth, that's my opinion. Human beings will never achieve the truth. But the more we try to get at the truth, the closer we get. Yes, you're right, but I tried to do it. This is why I am academic. I tried it. I'm not fooling myself. I'm not teaching his truth. I'm not teaching just by book. I'm teaching with books and my own research. External research and internal research. I'm trying at least to be an educator and not just an instructor. To instruct people, in my opinion, is a necessary condition for the education, but it's not sufficient. All these courses, online courses, come on, is that education or is that instruction? This is another question that you can answer with the paper. All this online, in my opinion, this is instruction. This is not education. Which is okay, which is necessary. You cannot have education without instruction. That's right, but it's not sufficient. You need to instruct people, but you need to do something else. Unless we are fooling ourselves, we say that we are in higher education, but what we are doing is higher instruction. Fooling ourselves and fooling the others, and lying to them, and lying to the fathers and the mothers and the parents of the kids that we are teaching. We are fooling all of them. Are we or not in an ethical problem?
So, I think just say, not just to make a comment in the sense that in most cases, the mistake which is made by us in the academia is to make an assumption on the learning process. It means that we are developing certain materials by assuming the knowledge in the students, rather than actually bringing closer the students so that he can also participate in the development of the material. So in other words, if we go by the roots of constructivist learning, that would be much more beneficial to us. But in most cases, we assume the status of our students without actually consulting them in curriculum design and all kinds of things. And therefore, it becomes more instructional design rather than more.
I was going to tell you that you find a lot of people that have written about what you are saying. That I am sure that if you write about what you just said, it's going to be something different. It's going to be something different. I bet you right now, if you do that, it's going to be something different. Because the knowledge could be the same, but your experience is different. And when you write, you mix both in the knowledge and the experience is individual. Write on that, on what you just said. Why you don't, sit down and write if you got the time, of course, because you need to feed your children, So if you got the time, write about that. Publish it, or write it for you, not publish it. Write it for academia.edu. Write it for a journal, for yourself. Write it and let your kids to read it, your students. Really, do that. And if you have got the time, send us the paper for the post-conference edition of the proceedings. You're going to have 15 days after the conference is over. But if someone needs more time, you can think about the journal. But the journal, we have to make selection. For journal, it's always the selection is not the same as for proceedings, for a lot of reasons. The proceedings are great literature. Journals are supposed not to be great literature, but they are.
Here's an interesting, I have a tendency to think that they're innate structures. We talk about approaching the truth. Back in Leibniz and Newton, I think that was not only the revolution in calculus, but in an idea. And I'm going to couple this with John Wheeler's stuff. That the whole essence of the modern mathematics, of analysis, is that what happens is when you do the calculation, you set the limit. Now, the limiting position is whatever it may be, you set it. It's not that there is one. For example, the idea of a circle, or the area under the curve. In that sense, it's illusory. You set what is underneath that curve, not that there is. Wheeler was saying essentially the same kind of thing with the double slit. When you look at it, you basically, it's not creating a reality necessarily, but at least when you look at that conformational collapse, you then do that conformational collapse. And that's what calculus is, Will. It's a conformational collapse, and you take all the window dressing away from it. And you basically, when you approach the truth, whatever it is, that is, maybe illusory or not, but but you approach what is the truth. You basically are saying not only how you approach it, but what the limit of that will be. How close do you want it to be? And see, right there is, when you talk about Leibniz, Wheeler, Heisenberg, the whole bunch of them, it's the process. It's not that you arrive at this is the limiting position. No, that is, you're engaged in a movement, a process. So the whole thing is process. You're involved, you are the process. And when you set that limiting position, that basically, you are the process. And so when you're doing the truth, you are the process. Now, what I didn't get to is this, the whole idea of the ethos. Well, the ethos is going to be basically a kind of a determinant, if you will, of how you set that limit. How close, am I just satisfied with a blurry image like in Plato? Or am I, this is the whole point of Plato, it's cave. That basically that is a process, it's a process thing.
You know, in that process, here is several people that they are in the process. I can say that because they are among, you are among the best reviewers we ever had, and they are here. So maybe these good reviewers that are here, they are thinking, what the hell Najib is talking about? Because since they are high, not just high quality from the scholarly, but with high ethical standard, they maybe cannot imagine what's going on elsewhere in other places. And some of you have high standards, at least in reviewing, and others in the paper. So maybe you might be thinking, what they are talking about? All of us were in the process. Because it's not just the people that are doing things all right. I think that but this is just an opinion, okay? They are doing okay in the ethic domain. My question is, are you doing okay in the meta-ethical domain?
The ethos domain, how about that one?
You see what I mean? Any one of you that is okay with the ethical domain, ask himself or herself, I am doing all what I can do in this life for the meta-ethical domain. Not to have just ethical behavior, but to find out a methodology that can lower the probability of unethical behavior. This is the meta-ethical domain. This is, in my opinion, what's happened to all these people. Their problem is in the methodology oriented to the meta-ethical domain. That was my problem. I failed in the meta-ethical domain. It didn't happen. I had the methodology that anyone had, the double blind. It doesn't work. It doesn't work because it doesn't detect unethical behavior from the reviewers and the writers when they are collusion among them. Well, you say, there is no collusion because no one knows each other. Okay, but how about random collusion? That's what happened. That is happening. Sorry.
I just want to ask a very basic question. What is your, especially your definition of ethos? What is your definition of being moral or whatever? Because it sounds to me very subjective, and it is not very clear what you mean with all these terms. Is it cooperation? To cooperate with someone?
Something more
Is peer
fundamental.
review a kind of cooperation?
Something more fundamental than that. Said when you look, that's why I think that mirror exercise is rather critical. So when you do that, and I urge everybody to do that, every other one of these ones has got a mirror. And just like in meditation, it's kind of a form of, it's sort of a meditation. And it's nothing really, it's not, you're looking for Cartesianism, this and this is probably going to be a million dozen things. But you get in that mirror and you look at that and you see when you get out, you experience getting outside of yourself. And you can kind of and what
what are you experiencing? It's going to be subjective because everybody's different. But when you say that, okay, I get outside myself, and you live your core. And your core is what it is all about. It's not this, or you're going to work, it's not doing all this technique and stuff like that. It's what is it, when you are on this planet, when you're in this universe, what is it about you that you relate to the universe? It gets something really fundamental about
I have a pragmatic answer, which is not the answer. I mean, on his level extent, but in the pragmatic sense. This is why I use the word credibility. Anything going against your credibility, you are not academic anymore. You are not academic anymore. You are not fulfilling your academic ethos because it's practical. It's the pragmatic things. If your students have no credibility in you, no one is gonna listen to you. Maybe they write the exam and in order to, but they won't believe what you are saying. Any other researcher that have no credibility in you would not read you. So you are not making research because the other people are not reading you because you are not credible. I know this is not the definition.
Are you about truth?
I know this is not the definition. It's just a consequence of being ethical, of having ethical behavior, to be credible.
Are you about, that's credible, but it's truth. Are you about truth? And that doesn't mean that you know what the truth is, or you're going to find the truth. Are you about truth? That's the key to the whole thing. It's not because you may never find it where the hell the truth is. That's what Plato's all about. We read the cave allegory. I love that. But it's in there. Are you going to be? Are you content? How about this from a pragmatic point? Are you content to be in that cave? No, I want to get the hell out of the cave. I may not never get out of the cave, but by God, I'm going to try to get out of the cave. At least it's within me the process to get those chains the hell off me and get out there in the sunlight. It's about the process of doing it. Are you about that? Not you're ever going to do that. Are you about that? Or you really want to live that? That's what the monk is about. That's why I did that. The monk is the one who sits in, not somebody in the monastery raping kids, whatever the hell else the monks do. And boy, I do not like that. And I'll tell you, the monk is going to be sitting in that monastery, and the monk is about that. That's what the monk is about. When you, the modern scientist is about the truth. Not that they're doing the truth or anything of the kind. They are about that. Are you your core? And be honest to yourself. When you look at that mirror, what is your core? That'll bounce. You'll be able to get outside yourself and you'll understand your core. That's what it's about. And I don't think 3/4 of the people out there in academia have even given a nanosecond of thought. Let alone do it.
Maybe trying to find the truth is a deterministic process.
So not finding the truth, it's about the truth. Are you, the parsec, somebody pronounce the Greek word. Parsec, somebody can help me with the Greek. But the one who basically is about the truth. So that they're in a public situation. And they're going to say whatever it is, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, against, or for them, whatever they be. But they're paresthesi, can I pronounce the thing? But that's what they're about. It's a process. You are about the process. Not that you're trying this. You don't try to do it from the second or third person point of view. You are about that.
But maybe in the about, you are generating or you are producing a lot of entropy.
You what?
You are producing a lot of entropy.
You're not producing entropy. You are about that.
In the process, you are producing entropy.
Yeah, well, that's an effect. That's an effect about what you're about.
St. Thomas Aquina would agree completely with what he said. But again, how I have that in my dinner today? What he's saying, what should I do? Should I get a PhD in philosophy? To know how can I apply that in my life?
The application is
so there is a lot of question about that. This is why I prefer to go to something. One of the effects of being ethics is credibility.
Ethics is a technique of the episteme, which is the ethos. That's why I put that alligator in the last part of it. The technique is the episteme.
I'm not sure about that.
I'm looking at the alligators. Let's be the alligator.
alligators was crucial, that whole thing, else that whole thing falls apart.
This is two perspectives. He would say, let's go from episteme to techne. I would say, let's go from techne to episteme.
No, I say
Okay?
going from
But the real truth is both of them in a cybernetic loop. Evolutionary thing, you see. Be a cybernetic loop between episteme and techne.
But let me do, all right, the ethos in essence is the inductive world. That's the holism. The ethos is the holism. What falls out of that ultimately is the technique. That is the deductive. The holism is the ethos.
What we're looking here is just to get your attention on a real problem. This is why it's a conversational session. We have no answer. So what we are trying to provide as input is questions. I wish I had some answer. Any one of you have answers, so maybe among all of us, if we can integrate our answers, so maybe we can get closer to whatever is called truth, okay? So please, if you can just make some reflection of that, especially the people who has experience, if they can make some reflection related to their experience about some of the questions that emerged here. So you notice there is no answers. So this is why this is a conversational session, to give you input as example of questions. There is a lot more questions than what we got here. So let's each one get an answer and a question related to his existence, personal existence and academic existence. And let's try to answer it by himself at least, to himself, to his kids, to his students. And let's read, all of us, each other, about what each one is saying in a special issue. Please do that. Please do that for your student. Let your student to listen something that he got to say. It's not research as it is understood. It's not the truth. It's his opinion. As an expert in academics. You don't agree with him, but let your student read it. Even if you don't agree with it. Why not? Why not? Why not let our student to be here with us? You see why I changed. I had suddenly Weiss was inspired by a teacher here, and we are finding the financial support for at least 10 students to be with us here in this conversational session for the next time. At least 10 students. To have them here with us, to listen, to ask, to doubt. We don't want them, the student, to doubt about what they're receiving. Because if they start doubting about what they are receiving, they're gonna ask for more. Because this is something that I never understood. Who pays the cost of the mistakes of the teachers in the university? In business, if you make mistake, you pay that. In university, if you make mistake, who pay for that? Is that fair? Is that ethic? Our students paying the prices for our mistake. How you are sure that you are not mistaken? Why not to have your student to listen to him that he has an opposite opinion than yours? Why not? So that was the inspiration that we got this time in order to have next time at least 10 students from Orlando that they don't need, money to travel, to be here with us. Because if we don't care about our students, who's going to care? I mean, because we will be lying to ourselves, to the university, to the organization, to the society, and to their parents. Because their parents, they are believing that we are giving them education, but we are not. So we are lying to the parents. Some people are lying consciously, sometimes people are lying unconsciously. But they are, well, maybe the term is not lie in the second sense. It's misleading, meta-misleading. I'm misleading because I was misled. But we are not doing good to our students. And if we are not doing good to our students, what we are doing for? I mean, are we fooling ourselves? So let's write here just opinion, forget research, a position paper based on the experience of each one of us. And let's publish that, and let's all our students to read that. This is one of the objectives, of the main objective of this conversational session. We cannot do it without your help. If you don't find the time to write something, there's no way to publish anything that's not written. So, well, thank you very much for being with us.